So good morning or good evening. Today it's my pleasure to welcome you, Vanessa. You're product owner at 4D and you will present a 50-minute 4D webinar. So Vanessa will show you how using CSS with 4D forms, you can apply a modern and consistent look and feel to your applications. How it will benefit your business, boosting users and customer satisfaction, and icing on the cake, saving you time and efforts as a 4D developer. I hope that everything is clear. It's time to leave you in Vanessa's hands, and I wish you a great session.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with you today for this session entirely dedicated to customizing 4D form with CSS. Together, we'll explore how to transform your interface, give them a more modern look, and make them easier to maintain and evolve. We'll start with the basic, what CSS is and how it works in 4D. Then we'll move quickly into hands-on example. I show you how to create your own style, apply them, and organize them efficiently. Finally, we look at a concrete use case in an application. So, why use CSS in 4D form? One of the main benefits is separating interface logic from styling. It makes your form clearer and, above all, easier to maintain. You no longer have to go into each form to change a color or a font. CSS also lets you unify the look and feel of your entire application. You can create a theme, define your colors, font size, and apply them globally. And if one day you decide to change your application's accent color, you only need to edit a single file instead of updating 100 of objects and forms. Syntax. A CSS style is very simple. It consists of a selector followed by properties and value all enclosed in curly braces. The selector defines where the style applies. It can refer to an object type like a button or text field. It can also be a CSS class like accent color or a specific object by name like button OK. The 4D documentation gives many examples of selectors and you can buy them, but honestly, using just types and classes is already enough to style your forms precisely, consistently, and professional. The properties directly correspond to the attributes you already use in form object in JSON. And the value you set are the same as the one expected in those attributes. So, what properties can you use in CSS? Almost all of them. The only exception are name, type, and class, since they are used to define selector. You also can modify code-related properties like method or event for security reasons, and list type properties aren't supported either, since they rely on JSON pointers or array. These formats are not supported in CSS. A common question is, when multiple styles are defined for the same object, which one is applied? The rule is quite simple. The most specific style wins. A style defined on an object name takes precedence over a class, which takes precedence over a type-based style. And if a property is set directly in the form property list, it overrides everything defined in CSS. It works the same way with CSS file. If a form has its own CSS file, this one takes precedence. Then comes the platform-specific file and finally the command file. Now let's jump into the first demo. Let me show you how this works in practice. I create a form. I add a button. I would like to change the color of the title of the button, and I duplicate the button to test all selector. And now I go in the toolbox, style sheet. Here you have a free CSS file. We will come back to those later. For now, I create a file called style sheet CSS. Here is my project open in VS Code, and in the project folder, source folder, you have the new file stylesheet.css. Okay, here with this button, we start with a type selector. Go to the documentation, here form, style sheet, object type. In the documentation, the type is simple type without prefix. Looking at the type property, here you have a table with the name of the attribute, and here the list of the possible value. You have checkbox, combo, dropdown. In this case, it's button. Okay, so now it's for letter. Sorry. So button. Okay, now I would like to change the color. So in 4G, in the property list, you have the theme. Okay, and here in the theme text, you have font color. We jump to the documentation. Here you have form object property, and here is the list of the theme, the same as in property list. So text, font color. Here in the table you have the attribute name for JSON or CSS, so it's stroke. Pardon. And here is the possible value is the color name is a possible value, CSS color name. So sorry. Stroke red. Save. Return in 40. And whole button is now red. To check if only apply to a button, I design the text, and the text is black. Okay. Now, for this button, we would like to use a class. So, return to the documentation, class. Here, he explains that the class is a name and you need to add a dot in prefix. Okay. So, dot, accent, color, stroke, blue. Save. Body. Here in the object name, you have an attribute CS in a property CSS class, and you type accent color. Now the text is blue, and here you have font color blue. Okay. For this button, we would like to use a selector object name. The name of this button is button 2. And go to the documentation, object name. For an object name, you need to enter the name of the object and add hash symbol. OK. H button 2 stroke green. Save. Here the button is green. Okay. For the last button, let's change the color with the property list. So here, yellow. Okay. In this case, the property appears in bold in the property list. The bold meaning the property is right in the JSON file, in the JSON form file. Alors, here, source, form 1. So check, yes, it's form 1. You have different element, and here, button 3, stroke, yellow. I remove the property, save, go back to 4D, and here the button is returned to the default value, and if you select, the property is not bold, okay? You can remove the property without editing the file. Add again yellow, okay? And now I make control click, and then is remove the property. Is useful to apply a CSS value because JSON, the value in the JSON overrides the value in the CSS. And another possibility is that yellow, you just select the property and use the key subram, okay? Here we enter a class and we write not selected in the list because you can have several class for a single object. So we create another class, for example, to change the font size, font main. In 4D, the font size is also in the term text. So go to the documentation, text, font size. So the attribute name is font size and the value is an integer. The font size, okay. So here, font size 24. A bigger size to see the difference in the form, save, and here, okay, blue, font size automatic, and now here I type space, you separate all class with just a space, and enter font main. Now bigger, and here font size 24. Okay. Let's return to the presentation. Special properties. Some properties have special behavior. For example, the URL function lets you point to an image or icon. For colors, you can use a standard name, an hexadecimal code, or the RGB function. It's very handy for styling button, background image, or icon. Another very useful feature is support for media query. With the media rule, you can adapt your style based on the OS light or dark theme. It lets you offer a consistent experience automatically adjusted to the user preferred theme. Let's play with this property and see what's happened. So now let's see how to create a button type template. In your application, you use some button style through your application. Let's make an information type button. Remove this and add another button. Okay. Here I remove the selector by name and the selector by type. Okay. Just keep the font, the class selector. Okay. Save. Return here. Yeah. Okay. So I want to have information button. Okay. So here title info still rounded bevel picture path name. So I had in my project some image and dark light and IDP. So just take this and drop. Okay. Now set image for state. Title, I want title right. Okay. And alignment, I want the text center. Okay. Oh, and I want a button 120 and 840. Okay. I want all my button in my project, all my info button has the same look. Okay, I can create another button and make the same property for all button in my project. Or I can create a template. I had another class and name button info. Okay, now I need to add all CSS attributes. So one possibility is like for stroke and font size, go to the documentation and check the name, or in this case, I go to my form, okay, and my form and my object, I copy the definition of my button, yes, and paste here in my doc, and so type, not interesting. Text is a title, so yes, I had, okay, top left, no, width and height, yes, I want to have a fixed size, okay. Event, no, style, icon, state, placement, align, yes, so all of this. Okay. Okay, I remove this. Now I want to transform this in CSS. Just, okay, replace the quotation mark by nothing. Okay, and replace comma by semicolon. Replace. Okay, now I have a CSS file. I check text, width, height, style, icon, no. I need to use the URL function to define a file path. Okay. Icon, text placement, text align. Save. No. Oh. Okay. Save. Return here. I draw another button and make a big button to see the size is applied correctly. And here I enter btn info. Okay. The title is incorrect. Oh yes, it's bold. So the title is defined. Need to remove the property in the JSON. Okay, there is info. Button type, picture name, state, title position. Okay, with an 8. So I remove. Oh, it's impossible. Yes. The form editor compute this value and need absolutely this value. So it's impossible to remove with and height in the form editor. So you have another possibility is to use a tag in CSS is important. This tag explain this value is important, is mandatory, is override the JSON value. So for this class, if you have defined another place, the width is ignore and not respect the cascading for CSS. This value is used. Important. Okay. Save. And now here is a good size. And you see here to save the CSS have a force value. Okay, and to verify it, I can here create another form, add a button, okay, and send class btn info, and here you are. Okay. This is exactly the principle you can use to create reusable style for your buttons, error, alert, and etc. etc. Okay. Another useful example of template is listbox. Okay. Listbox. In most of your form, you always apply the same properties: padding, alternative color, focus ring, drag and drop, and other. Okay. Instead of reconfiguring each time, you can create a style for the listbox type. So here, for example, I would like to my listbox a single selection mode. Padding. Okay, and vertical. Okay. Focusable. High focus rectangle. I would like to alternate color. Okay, and many other properties. Like this string blank, and I would also create another listbox, and I want to have the same style. So you need to enter again all property. Okay. So here I just want to have a definition for all my listbox. So I use the selector type listbox. Okay. And here for my listbox I can define the CSS attribute I want to apply to the listbox. Here, the listbox is a particular object. You have the listbox, but you have also an header with this property. You have column with this property, and you have also a footer with this property. Okay. So in the documentation, object type. So you have here the list of objects defined with type, and for this box you have also specific type, column, header, and footer. So for example, header. Okay, here, and I want to all my header in my all listbox is the title is right in blue. Okay. return in 4D, blue, blue, okay? Okay, and now for the list box. So I already prepared an example here. Here, for example, up. So I would like padding, I would like color for my row and an alternate color for the other row, dragging none, movable row, I focus, select mode, okay? Now I return in 4D. Yes, save. Okay, and now we are the other, and if I go in the other, just draw a list box, okay, and I can change for a collection. Is this value, is this property, style property is applicable to array or collection? You are. Okay. It's magic, yes. But for a specific list box in a specific form, you want an exception. For example, my list box is just to display a list, and I want the background is transparent. You are just click here, because the value in the JSON form is precedence of the value of the CSS. So you can have a global template, and for a specific case, a specific object in a specific form, you can modify or override the template. Now let's see how to use the query, the media query. So go back to the documentation, here media query. So you have this syntax to this, and that. Okay. So outside the arrobas media, here the attribute is always applied. Inside the arrobas media light is applied if the OS is in light mode, and inside arrobas media dark it's applied if the OS is in dark mode. Only the attribute linked to the color need to be defined in dark and light. So fill and alternate fill, for example. You can have several declarations of the same class, so I just move the color inside the media query. So here, let's box and use this. And the same in dark. Okay, so fill white. Okay, and here white with red. Okay, and here black. Okay, and black, and black with red to identify. Okay, save. Now return in 4D. Yeah. I redraw another list box. Okay, so you have the white and red. Okay, now I change in dark. Okay, you have black and black red. Okay. That's all for this demo. Return to the slide. In 4D, 3 CSS files are managed automatically. One shared across all platforms. This is the file used in the previous demo. And one specific to Windows and another for macOS. You can also assign a specific CSS file to a form using the CSS attribute. This lets you customize style depending on context or platform. Let's play with this file and see what happens. Let's test by overriding the font. So, here, toolbox, style sheet. So here, now I create the Mac file. Okay. And create the Windows file. Okay, close this. So here now you have style sheet underscore Mac, style sheet underscore Windows. So I create a class font main. Okay, and another class font secondary. Okay. With this, I would like to define the font and the font size, because it's a typical case where you want to have a difference between Mac and Windows is about the font. So font family impact. This is a font we have a very remarkable styles. So it's easily to see the difference in the demo. Font family chalkboard is the same for impact. It's very particular font. And define the size. Font size 24 is title, and I want to font size 16. Okay. Copy and go on Windows, and on Windows I inverse the font, and I want a small on Windows 2014. Okay, I save, and here remove this. Okay, go in 4D, here create and just draw. Okay, so I have free text, and for this use the class font main, and here font secondary. Okay, so here you have impact 24, checkerboard says Mac impact 24, checkerboard says. Okay, execute. I have this. If we want to see the result of Windows, you don't have to go on the Windows machine. Here you have a menu and you can see the result with in the form editor, the result with the CSS for Windows applied. So you have here Talbot 20, impact 14. Okay. Now I want to use a specific CSS file for a particular form. So looking at the documentation is here, multiple style sheet. So you have here the first file we have used, here explain the file Mac and Windows, and now explain how to use a specific file for a specific form. So you need to use the CSS attribute in form, okay? And this attribute you can pass just a string with the file path. You can pass collection of file paths, or here a collection of objects to define a path and the platform with the path is applied. Okay. So here I prepare here. I have already prepared specific CSS in my resource folder, mystyles.css, and this have a class accent color, and the color of the text is yellow. Okay. Here in my global style sheet, I have an accent color with stroke blue. Okay. So here for this text, I add accent color. Okay, donc it's blue. It load the value is in style sheet CSS. Okay, the global, the comment. And now in my form, so just check. Yes, it's form 1. Donc here form 1. At the first level of the JSON, you have the property applied to the form, and in page, you have the list of the page. Donc here is a page 0, and here is a page 1 with all my objects. Donc so here I had the CSS attribute, okay, and define a path to the specific CSS file in resource mystyle. So slash resources slash my style, comma, save. Okay, so now okay, now I have a specific CSS file defined in my form, original in 4D, and is not visible here, but is resolved to the runtime. Now here you have yellow text. Okay. Just check my note. I understand you don't want to modify the JSON form because it's possible to make a mistake, and yes, so you have a form macro created by Patrick Polly, and you can download this on the GitHub of Patrick Polly. It's from embedded CSS. Okay, just download. And then you go in the component folder of your project, okay, and add this and add the project from embedded CSS, okay. We restart your project, and here you have now a new menu in the contextual menu, okay, and here is, voila, you have a dialog to define CSS, okay, voilà, you can see, and define if it's for all platform or just for a specific platform, okay. Okay. Yes, now we have covered all the core CSS concept. Let's see what it looks like in a real application by putting everything we learn into practice. So, I open contact. This is a project we know is this project on 4G depot. Here you have this project, here contacts, okay. You have different branch, okay. So the example we show you, we show how all CSS is applied and used in this project. We need to download the last branch 20, okay. So use the current data. Here you have an interface with different gray color, and here, okay. So here is my contact project. In project source, I have my CSS file. So the global file, I have a selector type for listbox for input, and I have a list of color for font and fill, for light and for dark. And I have a specific file for Mac with font family and font style in different size, and the same for Windows. So here, for example, input, I have border style none, and check here. Okay, you have not border and not focus. Here. Return in design mode. For example, for this form, list, phone, email, I have the default. Default if is CSS for the size, and here accent color is here accent color 1, okay. And you have selected name. I have the class font medium, and check just another here, okay. You have input, and here you have accent color 1, and the same for border. Okay, so with only some CSS selector, you can personalize your application and have similar look for all your form. Now we run again the application. Okay. Here you have another menu item is term, and here I can select it green, for example, apply. The CSS file is applied only at when the form is loading. So I reopen my form, and now is green. Pink. Okay. Open. Okay. So here in my global file, I have a list of accent color. Okay, and in my resource folder, theme, I have one CSS but per color theme. And if I open here, I have the same project. Okay. I have the same CSS definition in my CSS per color and in the global CSS. Okay, and if I return in code explorer theme here, so here I load a file resource theme JSON. Okay, is this file. This file is a template to help me, and now I replace XXX by the value the color selected by the user here, and then I save the file in log theme JSON. I have opened my project with a 4D, and my data is in my project. It's not a real case in exploitation, but so my log is next to is here. The log folder, if you use Mac, is on a library folder, and on Windows is in app data folder. Okay, so here my file, so pink is the last value I have selected. Okay, then if I go in my form, source form, for example here, okay, you have here the CSS attribute we see previously in the presentation, and now we don't have directly the path to the file in my resource, because I want to change dynamically this value. So I use a JSON pointer. Then when the JSON pointer is resolved, when the form is loading, and then this part is replaced by the value found here. So this is replaced by this. Okay? Okay, that's the principle. Okay. Also, we have a definition in the global file here, and in the specific file for color. We previously see the we have precedence in CSS, and we have precedence between file. So the file is defined directly in the form, in the JSON form. So it's priority about the global file. Okay. Now, the question is, what's happen if the temp file is missing? Okay, so let's try. I remove. Okay, so now this log is empty and okay, run test application. Okay, and open. Now my form is in gray. Okay, and here the file is not recreate. When opening, I could create the log file, the temp file in the log folder, but the log folder could be deleted during its exploitation, during using. Okay, so you have a definition in the command file. So when the dialog is loading, the CSS in the global file is loaded, is used, okay? And if I have a reference with a specific folder, then this value is used, okay? So if you don't want have a problem if the log file is the temp file in the log file disappear, you need to define the same class in the specific file and in the global file. If you go, it's a flexible and robust way to manage multi-temp in your application. Okay. That's all. I return to the presentation. Here a recap of some documentation link we saw during the demo to go. And to go further, I recommend this 4D blog, creating a style sheet, managing light dark mode, and CSS preview in the editor. And that's the end of the presentation. I hope it helps you better understand how to use CSS in your 4D forms, and that it gave you plenty of ideas to apply in your own projects.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I'm passing to you. So yes, we have questions. So now it's up to you.
Okay. About the version of 4D, I think the demonstration with the R 20R9 to 20R20, but CSS is available since project mode V18, and I think the dark mode and the preview in the form editor it appeared during the 18R release, so is available. All feature is available since the 19 version. And about the other question about when I make some change about the listbox and I return in 4D and I delete because previously I have changed and I add a transparent by the property list, and I just need to remove this property, but to simplify and to gain some time, I just delete the list box and prefer to create another. But I just need to remove the transparency, the property list, to have the CSS value applied for dark and light. About the question about to use a wildcard character in object name in CSS. I don't know about object name if you have a particular behavior, but if you use special character is not supported by CSS, you can use quotation mark. For example, I create info button and I say text is info and I don't add a quotation mark. But if you have information is not supported in CSS, if a particularity of 4D, we use a quotation mark and then is you can use special character. So I support in white character is possible in object name. About the command, no. You don't have command to change the CSS on the fly. The CSS is computed when the form is loading, actually. So you can enter a feature request to ask to change this. Is it the var CSS function supported? No. 4D uses the CSS2 norm rule, okay, but we don't support all possibility of CSS. So actually, no, the var function is not supported, but you can enter also a feature request. To specify the default system, I'm not sure. I know you have some specific for JSON. You don't define this and you use the default, the system font. I think you have a specific name in JSON and then you can use the same in CSS. I will check with Patrick and I can send a specific answer about this. I'm not sure, so I can't. I prefer not say an answer if incorrect. Yes, if you have different form open and you change the CSS, yes, to apply the CSS, you need to reopen all CSS file. It's the same if you change the light to dark. If you want to, the modification is apply and change to light to dark, you need to reopen the form.
Okay, we have a question in the chat. Is there a way to extract the CSS code from a styled object?
No, you can just see in the property list to see if you have a CSS is applied to the object, but you don't have the information from which file is used, and you don't have a debug in at the runtime, like with a browser with a CSS in a web page. No. Perhaps
Okay.
make a feature request.
Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day. Have a good evening, night, and see you for and during our next event. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.